To understand a poem, sometimes you have to let your imagination loose, to think outside the box. So it is with this one. It is called A Walk on the Other Side. God and I went for a walk. A leisurely 2 or 3 paces, stop, look around and chat kind of walk. And as we walked, a raindrop fell from out the sky, translucent, clear as crystal. It struck upon a window frame and lodged there, barely visible. "What is that?" God asked, pointing. "That," I said, "is a raindrop." "And does that raindrop remind you of something?" he queried. "Yes," I replied, "a teardrop." "And do you know what a teardrop is?" "A little water, a little salt, a little mucus," I replied smugly. "A teardrop," he said, and I thought, uh-oh, here cometh the first lesson. A teardrop is liquefied emotion. It is joy, it is anguish, laughter, pain, delight, despair. He paused, and for one incredulous moment, I thought he looked overcome, somewhat sheepish, embarrassed by his outburst, and so I blurted out, "Fancy that." And here was me thinking it was only a drop of water. He looked at me sardonically and silently mouthed, "Smart Alex." We moved on. Another few steps and we stopped again. At our feet and to our left, a meadow of dew-tipped grasses, dotted here and there with clumps of nodding golden heads. I knelt before one, and out of a tangle of green saw a stem, a reddish pink stem, curving delicately upwards, trembling under the weight of a bright yellow blossom. "What is that?" God asked. "I'll tell you what that is. That is a nuisance. An absolute nuisance. It gets everywhere. It's a pest, it's a pain, it's a weed, it's a dandelion." "But don't tell me. Wait. You've got another name for it, haven't you? What do you call a dandelion?" "A gift." We walked on, past silver birches, round sturdy oaks, until we came to a flowering hawthorn bush. "Do you know you're being watched?" he said. I froze, then cautiously swivelled my gaze left and right, then over my shoulder. "Not there, there." He nodded at the hawthorn bush. "Look." I looked and looked and looked again. At first, nothing, and then a glint, a gleam, and then eyes, rows and rows of eyes watching our every movement. Sparrows, blue tits, coal tits, chaffinch, goldfinch, greenfinch, robin, siskin, every commonplace kind of bird under the sun. Silent, still, watching, staring, but not at me, staring at him. And as I watched, God winked. Slowly, deliberately, God winked, and the hawthorn bush exploded in a riot of colours and music and movement, soaring, tumbling, weaving intricate patterns, convoluted sequences, and all the time their voices blending together in a strangely harmonic cacophony of noise. "The dawn chorus?" I queried. "Not at this time of day," he said. "This is what I call the afternoon fandango." And as I watched, the fandango soared upwards, trailing clouds of earthly glory toward heaven. By this time, daylight was fading fast. Soon trees and bushes were vague, shadowy shapes, swiftly disappearing into evening's dark embrace. Then it was full dark. Silently, out of the darkness came the stars, silver jewels strewn profusely across a deep velvet sky. Parroting a line of poetry and pointing upwards, I said, "Look, nail holes in the floor of heaven, letting the glory shine through." He chuckled. "No, just the stars. Galaxies, clusters, if you like, lone rogues shooting solitary streams of fleeting beauty across far-off horizons." "Oh, look," I said, "there's Orion, and there's the Plough, and the Milky Way. But don't tell me. That's not what you call them, is it? These are not your names for them." "They are not. I have names for each of them, and I have a name for all of them. Collectively, I call the stars dream catchers, the dream catchers." And he said, "I have watched you, watching the stars and dreaming. You, young girls, adolescent boys, lovers, would-be astronauts, men and women longing, yearning, hungry for adventure, for visions, for new worlds, and all those dreams drift upwards to be caught by the dream catcher. And there they are, and who knows what I will yet do with all that longing and yearning and wishing." He was quiet for a time, and then softly said, "Just as I have a name for each star, I have a name for each of you. And I have a name, a collective name for all of you. Beloved, dearly beloved." I stood transfixed for a time, lost in the wonder of silver stars and golden words, then turned to speak. He was not there. I was quite alone. Silently he had slipped away, but for a few hours, over a distance of perhaps 100 yards, I had seen so much and learned so much. And then, from far away, I heard his voice. Isaiah 55, verse 8. Read Isaiah 55, verse 8. I did. And it said, "My thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways."